And once again, we are live. And tonight's episode, number 27 on this Monday, October 10th, 2022, airing exclusively on Twitch and powered by StreamYard. Gentlemen, we are back. It's Empire State of Baseball. It is episode 27, as I just mentioned. I'm your host, Rich Rivera, being joined by a very saddened and depressed Joe Pugliese and Corey Favaloro. And we know what we're going to talk about tonight, obviously, and we're going to get into it. But I wanted to bring in somebody who's really going to help mourn the loss of the New York Mets 2022 season. Welcome back to the show, Tom Wospil. What's up, Tom?
We're back. How we doing, boys?
I'm not surprised.
No bueno today.
I can show you the text.
I'm not surprised by Tom.
I sent Rich a text at noon on Friday before game one that I'll be back for Monday. So listen, Junior, I know you're a conspiracy theorist. I'm sure we'll get into that later. But no, I was committed to do this anyway. I'll be honest, I was ready to talk about like the road the Mets were gonna have to go against the big bad Dodgers. Could they do it? Could they slay the dragon? And listen, 3-game series, anything can happen. And Joe's done.
Oh, Joe's in the new look Pugliese studio. I don't even know what he calls a studio nowadays, but he's going for the hard stuff. Just pulled that right off the mantle. About 100 years old, just like Joe himself. All righty. Guys, I'm going to tone down over here because the Yankees have their own series to worry about. So we got to talk Mets.
Yeah, that's smooth.
We got to get into the Mets here. It's going to be the hot topic. It has been the hot topic all day to our surprise here. And I would say generally through our surprise here because none of us, even Tom himself, did not have the Mets not moving on to the next round of the playoffs.
I'm not an idiot.
Bounced early from the San Diego Padres in a stunner of the wild card weekend. I can't further speak on this on my side, and I'm going to let you two have the floor, starting with Corey, then Joe. How are we feeling today on this Monday?
It's a very, very deflating Monday. I obviously did not expect this team to not be playing in the divisional series of the playoffs for this season. This New York Metropolitan team goes right up there with some of the other big upsetting seasons I've had as a Met fan. This one definitely hurts a bit more than the usual ones because usually they're not even in the playoffs. This time, not only do they have one of their best seasons of all time, but again, there's still some sort of collapse or a choke job involved. And that's the moral of the story of this team. It's September and October rolls around and they choke every time it happens, at least during the Mets era of my lifetime. They are the first team in Major League Baseball history to win over 100 games and not be playing in the divisional round. They are the first team to get one hit in a postseason elimination game. Overall, it's a pretty disgraceful effort in a season that was absolutely fantastic, out of this world. But something happened. Once September hit and that easy schedule came around, they did not capitalize on that schedule. And that terrible momentum lingered into the postseason where you were getting inconsistent pitching. The guys who were getting paid big money to pitch in big spots did not deliver every time they were called to in the last month of the season. The bats were completely inconsistent, and that included this postseason where they did okay on Saturday. Friday night, could not score with the guy on third base in less than 2 outs, and getting one hit in the elimination game on Sunday. Absolutely disgusting. I'm very disappointed with this franchise right now.
Yeah. This was probably the best Mets team we have seen in probably our lifetime. And me and Corey are 31 years old. It was more complete than the 2000 team. It had the pitching that 06 did not have. It had the offensive weapons and late in talent that 2015 lacked. But yeah, they choked, and basically what it came down to was the pitching that they paid for, that the big money of the 6 starts between the Braves series and the Padres wild card round. Of the 6 starts, your top 3 pitchers gave you one quality outing from DeGrom the other day. I won't even say that the start against the Braves where DeGrom gave up 3 solo home runs, that wasn't that bad. Aside from those 3 home runs, I mean, he still struck out 11. But at the end of the day, Scherzer of the part that kills me is Scherzer killed your season. Scherzer took you out of 2 games, one against the Braves and one against the Padres, where you were dead in the 4th inning. This is a guy you paid $43 million a year over the next 3 years to get to your team, and he freaking spit the bit. That's what he did. He was, and I don't even know what to say. That's not a Hall of Fame performance. That is what Tom Glavine gave us in 2007. That's how bad it was. The Mets were out of that game in the 2nd inning on Friday night. It literally took the air right out of the building. They had no shot, all right? And they had no shot. That game is a different game. If you're going into the 6th inning and it's 2-1, 3-1, and you're behind, that is a different game. There is energy, there's life still in that building. But it was 7-0 at the 5th inning. That game was over. And listen, yesterday, Musgrove was on. We pulled the publicity stunt and a desperate move to try and get him out of there. Listen, if you watch baseball and you pay attention between pitches, you know what pitchers are using substances between pitches. Darvish was using on Friday night. That every time he got a new ball, he went to the belt, he rubbed it up. And he's not the only one. I've seen it time and time again where I literally at home can see pitchers cheating, even ones that aren't doing well. And that's fine. It is what it is. Musgrove, I think McCutcheon had the tweet. Musgrove might have had some red hot on his ears or whatever, but you could tell he was not putting that on the ball last night. I know the spin rates were up, but remember, it's a playoff game. The adrenaline's pumping. If you're a top-tier pitcher, that affects how you throw. There is nothing suspicious throughout that game where I said, oh, Musgrove's constantly going to his ear. I think they had one video on Twitter on one time that he scratched his ear before he threw a pitch.
So let me ask you a question real quick. Do you think Buck would have been killed by the fans if he didn't try to check? I know it's a desperation move at that rate, but don't you think that's his job to try to see what happened there?
Listen, the guy's pitching a one-hitter.
Yeah, but Musgrove's RPMs being through the roof.
I get it.
I don't think that came from Buck. I don't think Buck made that. I don't think Buck made that decision.
I think he said after the 26-year-old who's watching the replay booth in the front office looking for stuff, and somebody got word down to Buck, hey, this guy's RPMs are through the roof or whatever the heck it was. That's the stat nerds upstairs. Okay?
I think Buck is too much of a baseball guy and has like too much respect for the game for him to. I don't think Buck was trying to do something. He even said it. I don't remember in what post game interview it was. If it was from yesterday or another day, that he gets a lot. He said I get a lot of information in the dugout. So he was told basically, listen, you're gonna go out there and check. Like you're gonna go out there and ask for a check. I know Musgrove said it wasn't red hot. That he debunked what McCutcheon said. He had a weirder answer. I don't know if you guys saw it. He said he got a massage before the game. It could have been low. There was something on his ear, but I don't. Again, he didn't go to it, so I don't know what it was. But yeah, I mean, he was.
If you're going to call that, if you're going to do that, it needs to be done in the first or the second inning, okay? And you need to get it right. Okay, so this was not an obvious thing. You could not see this wasn't Pineda with the pine tar on his neck, where you could see it from space. This wasn't.
He had the side. It looked like a squirrel was on his neck. Just made a pine tar.
I'll put it this way. I think it was 2013. There was a playoff game where John Lester had the pine tar in his glove, right? Mm-hmm. And you could see it on TV. They literally could see it. If that happens, yes, 100%. You're not Bush League. You're playing within the rules, all that stuff. This was a Bush League move. This was a desperate move on a team that was getting one hit. You had no shot but other than to get him the hell out of there. And even then, I don't think it would have mattered last night. And at the end of the day, it just fired him up and it fired the Padres up. So at the end of the day, it did nothing. And all it's going to do is next year when you see them, it's going to get one of you guys drilled and you're probably going to have a brawl. That's just the facts.
I might be the minority here. I had absolutely no issue with Buck doing a protest there to make them check. I had zero issue with it. I mean, clearly the Twitter people, and Twitter itself is a crazy animal, but everyone was pulling up that one item. Everyone was doing it. Whether or not it was something and it ended up being nothing, I have no problem with doing. The evidence was there on Twitter. I agree with what Tom said, too. It came from above. Someone definitely called that in. I have no issue with what Buck did. But again,
either. I think they have the right to ask for a check, but I guess what none of us know is like inside baseball, like because I know I noticed it before they checked him. I remember thinking like those are some shiny ears. There's something on his ears. I don't know what it was, but like I know that didn't look normal.
It was also kind of cold too last night.
That's I don't know. It's within his right to ask. But I don't know within baseball, if people know, like, listen, the shiny stuff, if they got it, like it's this or that. Like maybe it is. I don't know.
Well, we didn't suggest the shiny stuff on Joe Musgrove's ear as one of the poll answers to today's preview poll on Instagram, where we asked, what is the main reason for the Mets wild card elimination? And lack of offense is the leader among late season losses, when you have to, of course, attribute the Chicago Cubs sweep and the loss to the Atlanta Braves 2 weeks ago. The struggling rotation, obviously the late struggles of DeGrom and Scherzer, and the trade deadline. I mean, you can go all the way back to, I can't call it complacency, but minimal moves that the organization made at the trade deadline that clearly did not come about in this postseason run that they just had.
Listen,
like the little moves they made, but I think the Mets need to make a little bit more noise come the trade deadline to put them in a better spot.
Listen, here's my thing about the trade deadline. And everybody says Billy Epler botched the trade deadline. I have a question for all those people who say he botched the trade deadline, didn't get a bat. What bat that was traded at the deadline? Because I can't look at players that aren't moved.
That you can't do that.
Players that aren't moved, I can't think that they're available enough for a reasonable price. That's why they didn't move. Which bat at the deadline that moved did you want that would have made the difference in this team?
I'll tell you what, I legitimately wanted Josh Bell, and Josh Bell was a big reason why the Mets were losing that game on Friday, because he right off the bat gave the Padres that big lead.
Bell hit 194 for the Padres up until that home run in game one.
It doesn't matter. He killed the Mets in game. I was at the game.
I
was at the game Friday night, Joe. When Josh Bell hit that home run, the energy in that stadium was gone. Josh Bell fits the role perfectly for what they need. A switch hitter, a guy who could play first base if you want to give Alonso a blow. Granted, he's a DH. He's not a first baseman anymore. Josh Bell was the perfect acquisition for the New York Mets to make, and they didn't do it. At the end of the day, they didn't do it. And what happened? They lost not just because of Josh Bell, but a big reason why they lost was because Josh Bell was on fire on Friday, hitting bombs.
Yeah, but that's one game. He was not on fire the entire season before this. He was batting 194. He had 3 home runs with the Padres.
That's about double.
Anything's better than Darren Ruff.
I was about to say it's double the production he got from Ruff.
Do you know of all the bats that moved at the deadline who had the highest OPS plus?
Vogelback.
It was probably Vogelback. Yeah. Oh, I have no problem with Vogelback.
I get it. And listen, I can criticize Epler for not bringing up Vientos, not bringing up Alvarez. I can criticize him for not going to get the extra bullpen arm, which actually, at the end of the day, didn't hurt us. What happened was the starters that were here that you're paying mega money to spit the bit, okay? And at the end of the day, the lineup went cold when Marte got hurt.
I still disagree with you that you're going to base the trade deadline lack of activity based on who moved. Because I guarantee you right now, any Mets fan, maybe except for you, Joe, would want JD Martinez's bat in that lineup last night. And if that meant giving up 2 out of your top 6 prospects to do it, listen, this Mets team was a 101-win team. They should have been a World Series favorite based on the moves that they should have made at the trade deadline. And yes, I do blame the lack of activity at the trade deadline to why they're in this position now. And I'm not even saying it's a Mets fan.
I think we also have
because they were right there. It was for the taking for this team.
I think we also have to consider, like, are the other 29 teams going to kind of start to blackball the Mets? Because, like, we know they don't like Cohen and what he does. Or is there a Cohen price on these guys? You know, to get JD Martinez, did it cost what did it cost them more because of the feeling that the other owners and teams have against what Cohen's doing? I don't know. I remember I brought it up at the trade deadline. It seems like it's they can't make the trade that they need to make. I don't know if it's on the GM or what it is, but I agree. I said it then that the Mets and the Yankees needed to go all in at the deadline.
Yeah, nothing positive came out of keeping all of Vientos, Mauricio, Alvarez, Beatty, Ramirez, Ziegler, all these guys up until this point. This was the team's chance. This was the franchise's chance. How did they not make that move?
Again, I can't tell you what the discussions were. I have to go based on what actually happened. You had no shot to get Soto and Bell because they went in the package deal for more prospects than you have. All right. I don't know where the bat was going to come from. Yes, I would have loved JD Martinez, but at the end of the day, the Mets didn't get him. The Brewers could have used the bat desperately. They didn't get him. How many teams needed a bat at the deadline and he didn't go? So I can't say for sure. Listen, Trey Mancini might be the one that you could say. I would say yes. I'd rather have Trey Mancini than Darren Ruff. I don't remember off the top of my head what Trey Mancini went for, but that would be the logical solution. But instead of Ruff, but at the end of the day, if you're going to split Ruff and Vogelback, that negates the Vogelback acquisition because you're going to want to play Trey Mancini every single day.
Andrew Benintendi would have been nice. I know he got the hammy
to
the Yankees, but you don't
also don't know if he gets hurt if he goes to the Mets. You know, I do agree with Joe that you don't know who actually was available. Now, everyone is available, right? There's a price on everyone. And again, maybe the Mets didn't want to pay that price, and we talked about them wanting to rebuild their farm system, and maybe they've committed to that, and they weren't going to trade some of these top 5 prospects. But I think
Joe, honestly, to Corey's point, I agree with him. Josh Bell would have been great, and I think he would have been. I think the stat line would have been different if he would have stayed within the National League East and played with the Mets and played against his former team.
He was packaged in the Soto deal, so I can't sit here and say that Josh Bell was available for the Mets to get. He went in the biggest deal of all time. He went in the biggest trade, maybe
the franchise wasn't aggressive enough to make those kind of moves. I don't think you can disagree with that.
No, you would never. The level that of prospects that the Padres gave up, the Mets couldn't match. That's a fact.
Unless they tried to do some sort of a 3-team and they ended up with Voit as opposed to Voit going to the Nationals. I don't know.
Let me ask this question, though. I want to ask this question.
But Voit, getting a Yankee reject never is a good idea. You think the fans were upset with Ruff? If you got a Yankee reject and put him on this team,
he was the home run champion in 2020.
Huh?
He was the home run champion in 2020. Lay off my man.
Oh my God! 2020. Come on, what are we doing here?
Listen, Voit, we don't have to go down the road, but Voit wasn't really a reject. He was a man out of position.
He had 228 with 295 for the Nationals since they acquired him. That's not the bat you're looking for. You're looking for a different. You're looking for Cespedes 2.0, and that bat did not move at the deadline.
What you're really looking for is a healthy Scherzer. I believe Scherzer was not really healthy out there. I got a lot of flashbacks to Garrett Cole in the wild card game last year in Fenway, a guy who is a great all-world pitcher who was hurt and decided to try to go through it. He wasn't himself. You could see that wasn't Max Scherzer. And I know he's not going to blame the injury, but he had come back from an injury. He's an older guy. I think that had a huge impact. If Scherzer is Scherzer, then DeGrom does what DeGrom does. We don't even have a game 3. It's over. And then we're talking about how you guys line up with the Dodgers.
And
he didn't have it.
Yeah, and with the Scherzer injury thing, because I know that was my thought as well at first. But then I'm going back at the stats here, and his first start coming off the oblique injury was September 19th versus the Brewers. He had that perfect game through 6 innings with 9 Ks. Second start off the IL against the Athletics, September 25th. Again, 6 innings, only 1 run, 4 hits, 7 Ks. So the first couple of starts off injury were solid. Prototypical Max Scherzer, exactly what you expect. And then what happened in the 2 games that mattered most in this season for Max Scherzer, October 1st versus the Braves. Obviously, they took the L that week. And then October 7th versus the Padres this past Friday, where he got absolutely obliterated, easily his worst start as a Met, probably his worst. I have to go back to the numbers, but probably his worst start in the last 5 years. I would be willing to put money on that. So I don't know if it was the injury per se, looking at how good he was when he first came back, but it definitely could have played a role.
Well, Corey, let me ask you, and Joe, chime in here. Is it fair for Met fans to kill the guy who's in his aging season, an aging 38-9 season with a 2.29 ERA, had one of his best seasons of his career, and just fumbled the bag in the last 2 starts?
You're paid $43.3 million over the next 3 years. You are a Hall of Famer tomorrow if you retire. Absolutely. Yep. And remember, this isn't DeGrom. You didn't grow up with this guy. This guy is a mercenary. He is a gun for hire. And you hired him to finish the job. And he spit the bit in not once. Listen, if he loses to Atlanta and he shuts down the Padres, at the end of the day, nobody cares.
Correct.
But what happened? He spit the bit not once, twice. And here's and listen, I get injuries. I get trying to tough it out. But if you play, you're not injured. And if you're injured, you don't pitch.
That's for the Mets. That's for the Mets to decide. That's not for him, because any competitor is going to want to play. Scherzer would want to be out there. If he had a broken arm, he'd want to pitch.
That's fine.
He's a psycho. He's even above anyone else. He's a crazy person.
I'm not giving him a break because he claimed his oblique still hurts. I'm not doing it. You're paid $43 million. Period. End of story.
The money you could pay him $43 billion. His oblique, I don't think he was right. My point is he wasn't right. I don't know if the Mets
doesn't get a pass.
I don't know if the Mets rushed him back, because I think the Mets were in a situation where they IL'd him, thinking, listen, we should have this wrapped up. If they didn't need him to come back when they did, they might have just left him on the IL, and maybe he just gets 1 or 2 starts before the postseason, and he's ready to roll. They rolled him back. I know he was good in the beginning, but it doesn't mean he couldn't have re-aggravated it, especially as the season goes on. It gets colder. He's out again. He's an old man out there. It's a cold night. Or I guess it wasn't as cold Friday, but still, I don't know. I'm just saying he wasn't right. He wasn't Max Scherzer out there, and you can give him $43 trillion, and it doesn't matter. If you don't have it, you don't have it.
You're paid that money. You have his pedigree. You need
what does the money have to do with it?
It has nothing to do with it. Everything to do with it. You paid this guy a fortune and gave up draft picks for him. And
listen, if you tell me he's a Aroldis Chapman who gets a tattoo and goes on the IL, then it's like, yeah, you made a dumb decision, and that's why you went on the IL. Max Scherzer got hurt pitching, and he might have got rushed back.
He's out there. He's pitching in what.
I don't think it's as easy.
2 playoff games, and in 2 playoff games, he left you out for dead. That's the truth.
Yeah,
they should have put him out there then.
DeGrom gets a break. DeGrom gets a break for striking out 13 Braves and happen to give up 3 solo home runs, and then turn around and give up.
I don't know why he gets a break for that.
At least DeGrom.
That's what we call a Garrett Cole. That's what we call a Garrett Cole special.
DeGrom showed up and he kept you in both games. Period. End of story.
He did.
Scherzer let you out to die.
Yeah.
Scherzer left you for dead in the 5th inning of both games.
And listen, I hope it's not the age too, going back to Rich's question, because if it's the age, the Mets are in big trouble next year, because right now, Max Scherzer, outside of David Peterson and possibly Carrasco, depending on the option, Scherzer right now is only one of 2 Mets starting pitchers guaranteed to be on this staff next year because him and Peterson are the only ones with the contract next year. I do think they end up doing the team option on Carrasco, but almost the entire bullpen is gone too. I mean, the Mets are going to have to retool their entire pitching staff. It's very likely that DeGrom could be gone. Listen, do I want him back? Of course, absolutely. I love DeGrom. But it's very, very possible Max Scherzer is the clear-cut ace on this team and might be the best pitcher on the rotation by far next year. So I hope it's not the age. Otherwise, we don't even have to worry about this conversation next year. The Mets won't even be in the postseason to begin with. But that's a whole different element.
And here's one more thing about the pitching.
Yeah.
Bassett doesn't get a pass. All right? Bassett, same thing. And Bassett was awful against the Cubs too. Okay? Yep. Bassett is supposed to be your number 3 starter. Bassett, again, didn't make it out of the 3rd inning in both against the Braves and the Padres. And Bassett is one of these guys we gave up all these prospects for. He came over from Oakland. Go back to Oakland. Go pitch for 2,000 fans. This isn't Oakland. This is New York. And you will get booed off the mound. If you think the Mets fans will ever forgive this guy, he better opt out because the fans are going to come for his head next year. All right? He did a terrible job, and he's sitting there shooting his mouth off after game 2 about how much of a gauntlet it is to pitch in New York and this and that, and the world is falling if you lose a couple of games in a row. Well, guess what, Bassett? It's the effing playoffs. Yep. It is the goddamn playoffs. You better believe that we're going to feel that way. And if you don't like it, go back and pitch in front of 500 fucking fans in the middle of goddamn August. Go do it. Because timing, you know what? The 39,000 people that show up every night in Citi Field in New York in September in a playoff race, they don't want to hear your fucking excuses. They want to see you pitch a decent game and get out of the 3rd or 4th inning without walking 5 fucking batters and giving up runs, giving up base hits to Austin fucking Nola.
Correct. No, that Austin Nola situation with the walks leading up to it, and you have the last hitter in that lineup. That's the guy you have to get out there and go to the next inning. What happens? You give up the 2-run single to Austin Nola. The whole Bassett situation is crazy because on paper, I mean, he was probably the Mets' best pitcher this year in terms of consistency. He went out there every start, didn't miss a start this year. For more times than not, always gave you a quality start. I love Chris Bassett. I really thought, you know what? This guy is a stud. He's going to be excellent for us in the rotation down the stretch. And like Joe said, I mean, the guy fell apart when it mattered most, as did Max Scherzer. The whole pitching staff fell apart when it matters most. And this goes back, we just posted in the chat here, what are we blaming most for the Mets wildcard elimination? A big part of it could be the starting pitching meltdown. You paid these guys a lot of money, but I'm not going to blame it just on the starting pitching because you look at the 3 games that you had. In game 2, the issue was not really the starting pitching. DeGrom pitched well. The offense played great. The bullpen outside of Ottavino pitched great. Lugo with the big out in the 9th inning there as well. Diaz, that's a whole different conversation in the 7th inning and going to the 8th inning. But you look at all 3 games, and it was almost a different reason why each night your team was out of it. Game 1, starting pitching. Scherzer clearly let you down. Game 2, you won, no big deal. Game 3, it was the offense. I mean, Bassett, did he pitch good? No, he didn't. But the offense got 1 hit. It's a mixture of everything. I'm actually blaming it. One of the 4 choices we had was losing the key games down the stretch, and that's exactly it to me. I don't know what happened to this team come September, but they were not the team that I remember watching in June, July, and even in August against the Dodger series. They were not getting the big hit when it mattered most. They were not getting the big-time starting pitching that they were getting all year. The bullpen, actually, for the most part, was pretty good, and that everyone thought that was the biggest weak point, but the bullpen was actually pretty decent. All they had to do was win 1 game, and this series wouldn't have even happened. You win 1 versus Atlanta, you're not here. You win the division. You don't get swept by the Cubs at home. You win 1 game against the trash Cubs. You're not even in this series. It doesn't matter. You're still playing in the NLDS. I'm blaming it down the stretch because it was the team itself as a whole was not playing up to the caliber that it should have been for a 101-win team. So that's what I'm doing. The team as a whole collectively did not perform down the stretch, and that's my reason why we're not playing baseball this week.
And I mentioned in a previous episode, the Mets lost 9 games against non-contending teams in September. And you mentioned the Cubs. That was probably the biggest turnaround right there. That sweep of the Cubs, of the Cubs was a turning point for this Mets team. And yeah, you can go to San Diego the past weekend, obviously, and you can go back to Atlanta. You can go as far back as the deadline. There's plenty of reasons where you can point where this thing went wrong. But the truth of the matter is a 101 team just got bounced. A team that had the fourth best record in all of baseball is the fourth team to get knocked out of the playoffs. It was a sad turn of events for this team. And in 10 days, where the Mets went into that series against Atlanta to right now, you're talking about a team that was supposed to be there. So I asked Joe and Corey respectfully, where does this rank among heartbreak? Because obviously it's heartbreaking to lose in the World Series. It's heartbreaking to lose in the last game of the championship series. But pending the free agents, the players that are supposed to be moving on, and the possibility that Jacob deGrom and Edwin Diaz might not be back on this team, what are you guys feeling as far as that sort of heartbreak?
I think if we're going to look at the big seasons over the last couple of decades with the New York Mets and disappointing, we're going to say 2015 with the World Series. We'll put 2022. We're going to throw in the 2007 collapse, and we'll throw in the 2006 Yadier Molina and that whole situation there. We're going to rank those four. 2015, I think I would have as the least disappointing, because that was a team, the season itself was such a fun season where you went from being an under 500 team, you have the trade deadline with Cespedes, your team goes off, you made it to the World Series. No one thought they were going to go to the World Series that year in June. So the fact they made it that far, that was actually a very fun season. Disappointing how it ended, but a fun season nonetheless. So that's going to be my fourth of those four. The next one I'm going to put is probably 2007, just because you didn't get to the postseason. Obviously, a huge collapse, and a lot of people make all the mocking jokes because of 2007. But because you didn't even get there, it doesn't sting as much as the other two. I'm actually going to go 2000. I'm going to go with this one second, even though this team was by far the best team on paper in our lifetime. I mean, 101 win season. 2006 to me stung a little more because that team just felt complete. That team, we weren't going into the postseason questioning pieces. We weren't saying, what's going to happen here? Oh, this guy ain't getting the job done. This guy ain't getting the job done. Blah, 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 blah. There were a lot of question marks and concerning baseball in the last few weeks of this Mets season, where this team did not deserve to make the postseason. They did, and they lost. Just considering how the last 2 weeks played out, the 2006 one hurt because I legitimately thought that team should have won the World Series.
Yeah, I mean, it's up there. Listen, 15 I don't see as a disappointment. Anytime you make the World Series, that's not a disappointment. Yep. I know you get disappointed at the end, but at the end of the day, the Royals were a very, very, very good team, and the Mets were shocked to be there. 16 again, I'm not disappointed. The rotation was beat up. You ran into Bumgarner in the playoffs. You're not the first person to run into that buzzsaw. The 06, the way that series ended, they were much better than the Cardinals. They would have had a cakewalk in the World Series. 07 with the collapse. I think some of the late 2001, 2002. I felt that those teams could have gone somewhere. This is up there. In my lifetime, this is up there. This was the best season by far. This, at least before the month of September, felt like a special season, and I think that this ended up being one of the tougher ones to swallow. And listen, who knows? Maybe in a month I'll feel better. When a month or two, I'll feel better if Cohen spends an absurd amount of money to fix this, which I get. I think that this now puts the league on notice. Cohen's team just won 101 games and got ousted in the wild card. I don't think there's anything that Cohen's unwilling to spend at this point. I think Cohen has got, and I don't think they were in on Judge up until yesterday, and now I think they're going to be in on Judge. And I think, and not in a joking way, not in a way just to jack up the price a little. I think they're going to be in on Judge, because if Judge is in this lineup is totally different. And I think he knows that. And I think that he knows if he adds him, he basically pushes the Yankees off the newspaper. I think that's what's going to happen. So I think that's going to be his solution to this problem is re-sign the big three, which is Diaz, DeGrom, and Nimmo. And then I think he's going to add. I think he's going to either go after Judge or Trey Turner, and he's going to try to fix it that way. And I think the Mets could realistically have a $350 million payroll next year, and I don't think he's going to blink.
That's what I was thinking about that all day. Is like what is his limit? I understand it's like he has no limit. Like everyone has some sort of a limit, but where does he go with it? If the Yankees, let's say, the Yankees offer Judge 8 years, $350. And Judge is like, I'm good to sign. I'm going to sign this. And then Steve Cohen calls and says, 8 years, $425. We going to do it? Like, does he do that? Like, I don't know. It's something he has the ability to do. And I think this is where, the league is definitely going to be on notice. Are they going to say, hey, Trey Turner, here's a boatload of money, come play second base, or Xander Bogaerts, or you want to play second? We already got Lindor playing short, or you want to play third? We don't really care, whatever. Just here's the money and go. I don't know. I do worry about it. I thought about it more today than I would like to have thought about it. The idea that he just blank checks Judge, and at that point, how can you blame him?
It's a scary thought. It's a scary thought to see how Cohen can pull, George Steinbrenner from 20 years ago, following this crucial elimination in the playoffs. But we've covered a lot of Mets, and we're obviously going to get into, what this team's going to look like come 2023 as we get closer to the offseason and into our offseason episodes as well. But we do have to move forward. Of course, they are the talk of the town, and it is a tough day for the New York Mets faithful. Joe, while we have a lot of people joined us for that last segment, and thank you very much, how can more of our fans join us right here on Twitch?
You can download Twitch and subscribe to Empire State of Baseball. The link is in our Twitter bio, which is at ESB Podcast. You can click the notification button. You will get a notification on your phone when we go live on Twitch, and join us as we go live every Monday at 7 o'clock.
Thank you, sir. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that. And make sure to join us on Twitch and download the app. So we're going to get into this real quick before we talk Yankees. So on Friday, if you follow us on Instagram, thank you very much, at Empire State of Baseball, we actually posted our predictions for the entire bracket of the postseason. And guess what? All our brackets already got busted. And they're not even like the opening round. It's just disgusting to look at, and just running through them real quick. We're not even going to give it the time it deserves. But, the Phillies fucked everybody. Fucked with PH. Obviously a lot of positivity for the Mets to move forward. Joe
ironically got
moving on. I'll give him that. Mariners Blue Jays, huge series this past weekend. What a wild game too that was. We got the Astros in there. Tom swapping out for the Dodgers.
I got my Final Four still set.
All right, well, you got a Final Four still set. Mine's screwed. Joe is super screwed, and Corey's got 3/4 left in there. So, guys, this past weekend, and obviously just moving on from the Mets, and we're going to get into the Guardians Yankees in a little bit. Let's talk some like out of town, some takeaways from the wild card weekend. Like I mentioned, that Blue Jays Mariners series was a banger, even though it ended in 2 games.
Oh yeah, that was definitely some series. If you're a we're talking about the Mets right now and how upset we are. Imagine being a Blue Jays fan and having that lead and losing that game. Oh, if I was a Blue Jays fan,
it couldn't have happened to a better team. Oh my God. Yankee fans, they've dealt with this, the Blue Jays and the cockiness for so long. The last season was the trailer, get ready for the movie. This is my house. Man. I'm Vladdy. And it's just, listen, they're still a scary team, and they're still they have such a good young core, but boy, just see that team consistently get their comeuppance. I'm sure one day maybe it'll pay off, but in the meantime, it couldn't happen to just a cockier bunch of kids.
There's something missing in that team, and the way that team was constructed it just the offense should be a lot better than it is, even though it's already a good offense. They got a couple players. I mean, Springer, it never plays. Chapman is a unreal defender. Can't hit a lick. Bo Bichette is not Bo Bichette. Bo Bichette had a down year. Biggio is a disappointment. They get Merrifield. Merrifield's washed up. You know, there's just something about that team that
they're all bark no bite. That's what they are. Like they're a team that is so like they talk so tough, and Manoah is such like a like he wants to like get in fights with people, but I think if like anyone stepped anywhere near him, I know he's a big boy, he probably like shit his pants. Like they're just that's what they are. They're just like they're cocky, and they haven't done anything to deserve the way that they act. And like I'm not saying that players shouldn't have fun and all that, but it's just the way they are. And I wonder if this will change some things for them. You know, maybe they do realize like, hey, maybe we should, have a little bit of class to what we do.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to be, I've always had the Blue Jays kind of on the same level as the Padres. And ironically, I got that, but you got to beat the Yankees once in a while to have that bravado. You know what I'm saying? And they never beat the Yankees. So, on the flip side of it, I love this Mariners team. Look, I absolutely love what the Mariners
are the only one that had the confidence in Seattle to move on to the division series.
Yep. Listen, I still think Houston's going to win because at the same time, Houston owns Seattle up until the point where you can show me you can beat them. But right now, I love Seattle. I think they're going to bring if there's anybody who's going to upset Houston, it's going to be Seattle. And I think they're going to bring them to the brink. They're going to bring them to the last game. But I love it. I love the atmosphere. That city is absolutely pumped for that team. And listen, Cleveland can't hit a lick. We know that. But the one thing Cleveland can do is they can pitch. And we know when the Yankees face good pitching, that's a problem. Okay? You don't have to score that many runs to beat the Yankees when you have good pitching that goes against them. I think that's going to be a competitive series. I could see Bieber. I can see Bieber and McKenzie and Quantrell. I could see them giving the Yankees fits. I could see a lot of 2-1 games. And, who knows? Judge could decide it, with one home run. But I could see a lot of low-scoring games in that series as well.
Joe, with the hidden segue, you unprofessional bastard. Here you go. The Bronx is burning. Thank you, Joe, for that. We'll get right into the Yankees and Guardians. And before we get there, Tom, what's the best way to follow us all on social media?
Best way to follow us as a podcast is at Empire State of Baseball on Instagram and on Twitter. You can follow us individually at Rich J. Rivera, G. Gorey, Junior Pugs, and you can follow myself at T. Wospil.
And yes, and Tom is back to preview this big series for the Yankees Guardians. How timely of you, sir. It's been nice to deal with Corey and Joe leading up to the postseason, being the lone Yankee fan, but it's nice to see some more Yankee representation on the show. So welcome back. All right, let's get into it. The Bronx is burning. Yanks Guardians. This is a rematch of both the 2017 ALDS and the 2020 Wild Card Series. This obviously the first appearance for the Guardians as the Guardians in the playoffs. And they're coming off a huge victory against the Tampa Bay Rays. That game 2 was wild, gone 15 innings. As a Yankee fan, sat back and hoped that Tampa was going to come back and win, make that a 3-game set, tire these boys out. But Tom, honestly, just watching that series, and I know Cleveland took 2, I felt like either way, the Yankees are going to be in for quite the matchup. I feel Tampa and Cleveland are pretty evenly matched. They run the bases well. The defense is phenomenal. They got stud pitchers at the top end of the rotation. I think there was a very even matchup between Tampa and Cleveland this past weekend. So I don't know if there was a team that you felt a little bit more confident with, but I think Cleveland's going to give this team a ride.
I think I was probably more confident against Tampa. I mean, their offense is horrible. I mean, listen, like hats off to Cleveland. They did pitch really well, but there were some pitches in that game that were so hittable that there was fastballs down the middle, and not extreme velo that the guys were just swinging and missing at.
Mm-hmm.
Tampa's offense is horrible, and they were hurt all year. They had a lot of their own issues. Cleveland's offense isn't much better. Listen, Jose Ramirez is a bad man, and I'm sure he's going to reintroduce himself to everyone this series. He's gonna hit a big home run off Garrett Cole. I already know what's gonna happen. It's gonna be 1-0 before Judge gets to that bat.
Absolutely.
Jose Ramirez is hitting a home run. Hopefully, there's not a walk beforehand. You don't want to underlook anyone you're playing. Listen, they did win their division. Granted, it's one of the worst divisions in baseball in history, but they won that division. What doesn't worry me as much about their starting pitching is the top end pitching that the Yankees usually struggle against is high velo guys that are throwing up in the high 90s. And that's not what Cleveland is. Bieber sits around 91. McKenzie and Quantrill are both like 94. It's granted that's hard, and I'm sure in the playoffs that might tick up a little bit, but it's not the normal recipe of what the Yankees do struggle with it. And also Cleveland isn't going to be as set up. It's going to be interesting to see how they throw their pitching out. But if you tell me I get Garrett Cole versus Cal Quantrill game 1, you have to win that game.
And that's what you're going to get.
Absolutely have to win that game.
As it matches up right now, it's Cal Quantrill against Cole for game 1 tomorrow night, followed by Bieber and Nestor Cortez on Thursday, and then Luis Severino and Tristan McKenzie for the Saturday game 3 in Cleveland. So that's how it matches up.
Yeah. Do you trust Garrett Cole?
Yeah, I do. I do trust Garrett Cole. Listen, he is a.
You had no choice, but
no, I do trust Garrett Cole. Listen, I talked about Scherzer being hurt in the game. That's what really led to him not pitching well. Cole was hurt last year against the Red Sox. He was. And you say it's an excuse or whatever. Like it's the facts. He was not, what he normally is. He is pitching better as of late. I do have faith in Garrett Cole. And frankly, I know this could be something that could be brought up next week of like, oh, Tom said Cleveland's offense was trash, but their offense is trash. I'm sorry. It is. They don't it took 15 innings to score 1 run against Tampa, who have good pitching, but they weren't throwing, Jacob deGrom for 15 innings. Like, let's be clear, people. They don't score that many runs. And the Yankees, I know one thing we talked a lot about this year was the Yankees are too reliant on the home run. And I'm sure you guys all saw it enough this weekend about teams that it was like over 50% of the runs this postseason have been scored via the home run. Teams who are out homering the other team win, and the Yankees hit home runs. That's what they do. I think it sets up well for them. You can't just overlook them and say, oh, the Yankees are going to sweep them and on to Houston. But the Yankees should absolutely win this series. Just like, not to rub salt in the wound, just like the Mets should have beaten San Diego. They should have beaten them. They didn't, but they should have. The Yankees should win this series in 3 or 4. That is how it should go. We'll see what happens.
I hope, but we also might be looking at a scheduling conflict because if this does go to game 5, that game 5 is going to be next Monday. So we will stay tuned. We will stay tuned.
That'll be an 8 p.m. game.
Sorry?
That will be an 8 p.m. game.
Let's hope that's an 8 p.m. game.
Yeah, that absolutely will.
They don't. The Yankees don't play at 2:00 in the afternoon. I do feel really bad for the Braves, the champs, to be like, "Hey, you guys get the shit time slot." That
doesn't matter. Even if the Dodgers, the Yankees will be the 8 p.m. game. The Dodgers will be the 6 or 7.
Well, the Dodgers also, they can give them the later game. They can give them the 9 o'clocks on the West Coast. But the Yankees aren't playing at 2 o'clock. It's just not gonna happen. I'm not saying they deserve it, but that's the reality.
So I'll ask you guys, who is your pick to move on? Obviously, Joe has the Guardians moving past the Yankees in the ALCS. So I'm not gonna even ask him. But Corey, who are you feeling out in this series?
I'm going to go with the Yankees. I did have the Rays advancing to this series, and I had the Yankees beating the Rays. I'm still going to have them beating the Guardians to move on. But I'm taking a look at the early pitching matchups. And again, we don't know what's going to happen that game 4, that game 5. Again, potential game 4 and 5. So still TBDs across the board there.
Mhm.
But looking at game 1, Quantrill versus Cole, I do think the Yankees are going to win game 1. Although you never know, Quantrill might come out and pitch a gem. We'll see what happens.
Anything could happen.
Yeah, anything could happen. And then looking at game 2, Bieber versus Cortez. As good as Cortez is, I actually think this is the game that the Guardians take. So my initial reaction is you're going to be 1-1 after the first 2 games.
Mhm.
I really think it's going to come down to game 3. And the winner of game 3 is going to end up being the team that wins this series. Again, because I do think the Yankees win the series, I'm going to say that Severino outpitches McKenzie in what I think is going to be actually a very good matchup, in that game 3. And that is in Cleveland, too. So I'm going to take the Yankees, and I'm going to say they win this series. I'm going to say they win it 3-1.
Yankees, the last time the Yankees faced Shane Bieber in the playoffs, he went 4 2/3, 7 earned. So
true. Anything could happen.
It was the short year. Again, anything can happen. The Yankees they're a better team. And Joe, you could try to say how Cleveland they have the pitching and it's going to match against the Yankees. The Yankees are too reliant on the home, blah 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 blah. The Yankees are the better team. They are by far the better team than Cleveland, and they should win this series, and they should win it handily. They should. I'm not saying they will, but they should.
They absolutely should win this series.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So my thing is, anybody who trusts Severino's career ERA in the playoffs is 5.23. So you can't trust Severino for playoffs. All right, he is blown up multiple times in the playoffs.
He also looks like he has the most momentum going into the playoffs.
There's durability concerns. I got so many questions of Severino. I have to see it from him before I believe it. I feel like people forgot about Shane Bieber. Like, I don't know if it was the fact that he was hurt a little bit last year. People
Shane Bieber's ERA in the playoffs is 13.5. So
he's saying. You're picking out the one. It was 13.5 in one game. You forgot about the game last year when he went where he pitched against the Rays and went 7 2/3 and gave up 1 run. You forgot about that game against.
You're right. I'm looking at this wrong. It's 5.84. That's it. That's his.
All right. He's only pitched in 2 games. Let's calm down.
How many? I don't have.
Severino has 9 games that he's pitched in the postseason. He's got the same ERA. So there's a big sample size there.
Quick note, good news for the Yankee fans and the Yankees in general. Matt Carpenter, healthy enough that the Yankees going to carry him for the American League Division Series roster. The early reports that he looks good in BP. Even better news, Aroldis Chapman dropped off the Yankees roster because he's a fucking idiot.
The story of how Chapman, he is like, I'm so happy that he decided that he didn't want to show up. It's amazing. Asshole. I think I'll be honest. I think the Yankees at this point were just tired of his shit. I think they really were anyway. And then the whole tattoo thing happened, and the Yankees, unlike a move the Yankees don't normally make, they really embarrassed him in this.
Good.
I think they basically told him, listen, you're not going to make it. And then he said, well, I'm not going to show up. And they said, well, you didn't show up. That's why you didn't make it. I think that was all very...
I never agreed with a Yankee front office decision more this season than what they did yesterday and dropping him off the roster. I went on record of how much I couldn't stand this guy, how much he's a detriment to this team. I don't care that the Yankees don't even have a closer. This guy should not be on the roster. And if the Yankees move on to the championship series, I better not see him. If they move on to if they're lucky enough to get to the World Series,
there's no way.
I better not see him.
There's no way.
You'll never see Aroldis Chapman in pinstripes ever again.
And I'm not saying he undeserving, but what they did to him and basically just absolutely burying him with you didn't show up.
Yep.
There's no way he would be back. They're gonna. I mean, Albert Abreu will be in the bullpen. Greg Weissert will be in the bullpen. David Garcias might be in the bullpen. Rich Rivera could be in the bullpen.
I'd rather
Aroldis Chapman is not pitching for the Yankees ever again. He's not.
But see, here's the other thing, though, and that Cleveland has the advantage over the Yankees. The Cleveland bullpen is fantastic.
Yes, they are.
And Emmanuel Clase is a legitimate closer.
Yep.
Clase. I'm sorry. And listen, we got to see it in the playoffs. We got to see it in a big game. But the Cleveland has the advantage over the Yankees in terms of bullpen. And that's one thing about the Yankees. Who's getting the final 3 outs now?
And that's the biggest question. And we talked about this. We had a whole segment about this weeks ago. I talked about how Sevy I thought was the most battle-tested person, but clearly you need this guy in the in the rotation. At this moment right now, I would probably say Jonathan Loáisiga is the guy.
I mean, I think the Yankees.
I don't think
the Yankees can win it all with this bullpen. You have guys that you're going to trust as closing games out in the playoffs that never closed the game out in their life.
They have no choice, though.
I know, but you would have. That's a terrible situation.
You would have said the same thing about
situation. They have no choice, though. Here, Joe.
You would have said the same thing about the Braves bullpen going into last year. Like it's you don't know who is gonna show up. I think the Yankees really plan on bludgeoning people as much as they possibly can, and hopefully it doesn't come into it. But they're also hopefully going to start doing the more I guess like analytic way of doing it, and you don't save your best pitcher for the 9th inning. Listen, if Jose Ramirez is going to come up in the 8th inning to lead off, and the Yankees are up 3-2, I want Jonathan Loáisiga out there, and then you figure out the 9th later. You do what I know it might have been a reach. You do what the Mets did with Edwin Diaz the other night. You say this is the lane we need to get out. We need to get these guys. We're going to put our best pitcher in. Now, Jonathan Loáisiga is no Edwin Diaz, but you got to put the best you can out there when it matters, and you figure the rest out later.
Which is true. And one of our earlier episodes, it was maybe a month ago, it was sometime like late August, early September, we were actually debating who should be the closer for the Yankees. And I brought up, and I still agree with this point 100%, it's really going to be a by committee, by situation approach. It's not going to be that one set guy for the 9th inning. Gone are the days where Mariano Rivera was coming out in the 9th inning and you knew he was coming out for the 9th inning. It's by committee. Tom just mentioned Diaz coming out in the 7th inning and the 8th inning. They're just going to mix and match depending on the situation, depending on what the matchups say. Guys going to come 9th inning one day, 7th inning the next day.
I think that helps them. I think putting it on someone saying, hey, Loáisiga, you're the closer, or hey, Clay Holmes, you've been trashed for 2 months, but like you were so lights out the first half of the year, you're the closer. I think that is worse. I think they roll with it. Everyone is all hands on deck, and you see what happens.
Yep. See,
you have no other option. Who's the closer?
I understand that, but I disagree. I think you're going to run into a moment where one of these guys is not able to handle it. There is a difference. There is a big difference than playing in the middle of September when you got the division locked up in the 9th inning and a postseason series with a 1-run lead with the stadium rocking. And the Yankees have no one that has ever pitched in that kind of pressure situation before. It's just a fact.
I'll offer a few names, and I want to ask you guys kind of like a bonus trivia question here. What's the similarity between all these names? Julio Urias, Chris Sale, Adam Wainwright, who's that? Mike Montgomery,
Major League Baseball pitchers.
Major League Baseball pitchers, yes, Tom, but these are starters pitchers who got the final out in the last few World Series. Teams have gone to that kind of mode when they know they don't have a lockdown closer ready for a particular spot, and they've dragged somebody from the starting rotation to help them out, whoever's the best guy. I don't know if I mentioned him just now in the names here, but Madison Bumgarner in 2014. Yes, he was on a historic run.
David Price.
That's a different breed.
Closer the Giants. No,
that's a different breed. You don't have that breed. That breed doesn't exist in the Yankees. What Garrett Cole and his pampered ass is going to come out of the bullpen in Game 7.
But if it's Game 7 and he's your best option, he's rested to do it, then why not?
Yeah. You would like it, but Bumgarner is that's a different breed of human that they did, and I don't know. I don't know. The Yankees, I'm very, very, very nervous about the Yankees.
It's an issue. No, and this is we had almost a whole segment, as Corey mentioned before.
Cortez is the most reliable person.
Yeah.
Cortez, I mean, by far. And listen, Cole eats innings. Cole's got to show something this year. If
he
Cole
does, I agree.
If Cole spits the bit, like a Scherzer, like he did last year, the Yankee fans are never going to forgive him. I mean, he needs to earn his money. He is he's the highest paid pitcher in terms of total contract in baseball. He's got to earn that this year.
And we will find out what dog is left in Garrett Cole for tomorrow's Game 1 start of the American League Division Series against the Cleveland Guardians at Yankee Stadium. Before we end our show, Guess the Graph. Corey, what's the best way to give us a subscribe on YouTube?
Yeah, everyone go ahead, go to our YouTube page. Full episodes of Empire State of Baseball are up there and available for viewing. So please go ahead, like, share, and subscribe our YouTube page. You will find individual clips as well as our full episodes, so you could go back and rewatch any segment that you would like to see.
Yes, sir. And what do we got here? What's next here, Corey? What do we got?
We got a little bit of Guess the Graph action here. We're going to go into another segment, a fun segment. Mr. Tom, always the master of autographs. You can see all those balls behind him right there. Tom, which graph do we got for today?
All right. Well,
we have this one, which I'll be honest, I can't remember if we've done this one before. If we
All
have,
right.
I apologize. I'm a little.
No, I don't think we have.
Time now.
I don't think we have. And honestly, just channeling back to these Savages in the Bronx days, I don't even remember this one. So I'm totally in the loss here. All right. Well, let's start with this. Does this sometimes you keep the autographs relevant? Is this person relevant to the postseason?
No.
Okay. So not a postseason hero. Okay.
It looked. I could be off, but it looks like somebody with like an initial name. I was thinking like JJ Happ or like an AJ Burnett.
No.
Neither of the. Okay. All right. I feel like that third letter is an A.
Yeah,
okay.
I would say it's an A.
I mean, that doesn't really help because I really can't. Like, if I'm looking at
there is an A in this person's name.
It looks like the letters I'm looking at is TJAV. Now, I don't know if I got any of that right except for the A. And Tom, I don't know if you have access to the chat, but there is a guess in the chat.
I do have access to the chat. The chat is not correct. It is not JD Martinez.
All right. Well, you want with an initial name? Joe's eating. I'm professional, but nobody can see him, so it's all good. Nope. Let me think here. This is tough. All right. Oh, wait. So clues here. Affiliation with Yankees or Mets, or neither.
Affiliation with the Yankees, and this is a active player. It's an active player in Major League Baseball.
Active MLB player, not related
DJ
to
LeMahieu. No,
he's no longer with the Yankees.
He is no longer with the Yankees.
Okay. Active major leaguer, not with the Yankees.
Yes.
Let's see.
Active Yankee. Damn. That first letter's throwing me off, man. Because it could be an M, could be a lowercase n, could be a backwards H. The hell it is. Looks like a chair.
What position?
Ooh. Outfield.
Ooh. Okay. Come on.
Did not come up as an outfielder, though.
Miguel Andujar.
Miguel Andujar.
Yes. Yep.
Oh.
There you go. It was an M.
It wasn't.
All right.
Yep.
Miggy. Papa Do.
And Griff got it right.
Yep.
In the chat
the helicopter. The pride of the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yeah.
Miguel Andujar.
So sad. But hey, hopefully it's a big opportunity. And all I saw is like the first time he was in the lineup, he was batting third. It's like he's already gotten more opportunity than he has with the Yankees since 2000.
I mean, every time the Yankees would bring him up, he would hit like fifth, and then they would send him back.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's been a lot. There's been too many. I feel like of those guys that the Yankees just like don't. I don't know. Just don't treat with respect.
It's just sad, and that's why like I don't blame this team for trying to turn over their farm to help them now, because it's not like the Yankees do a great job of developing their players to a major league level. Maybe a couple of them, yeah, you've hit the nail on the head, Judge including.
And what the Yankees do very, What they do very well, the Yankees, is trade their players for because Cashman to me, I said it before when we did our deadline episodes. He is the thief of baseball when it comes to trading players and making people believe their prospects are out of this world, and he robs these teams. Good for Cashman, though. That's your job. So,
well, so far, Oakland looks pretty good right now. What they got from out of that Montas deal, they look like the winners of that so far. But yeah, it's a good point.
The Yankees are good at finding that one guy that transcends the failures and that saves the farm system. Judge is that guy. Jeter was that guy. They've continued the line of succession, which is why they need to re-sign Judge, why that's so critical to their future. But that line of succession, the root
about it.
To Garrett,
it's gonna be so upsetting.
We
to
will
Mattingly
cover all of it.
Yeah, so
we're gonna cover all of it.
So I don't want to cover that.
Well, yeah, you hope that Dominguez is that. You hope Volpe is that. But the way this team is just growing their prospects, even how they kind of used Oswald Peraza in his initial call-up. And yeah, after the Yankees had that division wrapped up in the AL East, then they started giving Peraza playing time, and Peraza did pretty well. I kind of wondered what they would have done.
This time feels different. They feel like they're protecting the top guys more than they have in the past. And I feel like Volpe especially. Volpe is a guy back in 10 years ago, they would have flipped at the deadline and gotten a Soto. They're protecting him in particular. I feel that the Yankees feel they have something big in Volpe and Dominguez that they're not going to trade them away, that they are going to, when they come up, they're going to have the spot for them, and that's going to be their spot, which is a different thing for the Yankees. So
we'll get into it. Obviously, by next Monday, we don't know if the Yankees will be starting Game 5 or the ALDS will be wrapped up. But we'll talk more on what the future of the Yankees looks like come next week, regardless. But until then, just make sure to give us a follow on everything: Instagram, Twitter, individually on Twitter. Subscribe to us on YouTube and subscribe to us on Twitch. We thank you all so much for joining us on this Monday evening, right ahead of Monday Night Football here. Starting with Corey, and we'll go around the room. Any final thoughts?
Just a couple of thank yous tonight. First, I got to thank Guinness for getting me over this bad Mets collapse here, but also for the Jets big win yesterday versus the Dolphins, and at least it gives me something to root for the next few months.
Yep. Thanks to the Jets. I'm thankful for Cohen and his ability to hopefully fix this mess. Like I said, we got 3 priorities: Diaz, DeGrom, and Nimmo. Everyone else I don't give a rat's ass about, but those are the 3. And if we can get those guys signed, I'd be thankful.
Thomas?
I'd like to send a future thank you to my daughter to hopefully go to sleep tonight at a reasonable time. Tired.
And I want to send a thank you to you, Tom, for rejoining us on the show. I guess we'll take it as is. Listen, that's a big job nowadays. So you might be back next week, you might not. So we'll take it in stride, I guess.
We'll see.
We'll see. And thank you to all the fans who joined in on tonight's show. It was a big show. Obviously, the Mets talk of the town. We got the Yankees preview, so it was a lot of stuff to cover. Thank you so much. We'll see you here next Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern time, right here on Twitch. Take care.